She's the host of Full Measure with Sharyl Attkisson, and she's getting ready to release a new book, Slanted: How the News Media Taught Us to Love Censorship and Hate Journalism. Sharyl, thank you for joining us. Boy, what great timing on that book, especially if the book is about what that. Talk to us about censorship and journalism. What's going on?
Well, I sort of have progressed how I've talked about this from the last couple of books that I've written, where it brings us to the point where we are today, where special interests and political interests are not only learning how to pull strings and get their nose under the tent of news organizations to influence what we do and don't report, but now they are us. We have hired a lot of these ideologues and political operatives and brought them into our newsrooms where they directly impact the tone and the subject matter that we report on the news. And as you know, Eric, this is now extended to very overt self-censorship involving social media and the big tech companies, which is all, I think, related.
Yeah, I want to get to that in 1 second, because that has been the talk of the week with what's going on in Capitol Hill, the Senate hearings of Facebook and Twitter. But talk to me a little bit about that line between, you know, that wall between the opinion people and the news people in so many media organizations. It gets blurry. It's becoming more blurry over time.
Well, this may be one of the quickest devolutions of the news as we once knew it, at least in my lifetime, in the decades that I've been covering stories as a reporter and an investigative journalist. And around 2016, we just by leaps and bounds as a group, talking about the media and news organizations, decided that we no longer had to follow our normal ethics and standards and the guidelines that we had adopted, at least to provide the semblance of neutrality when we're doing our news reporting versus opinion pieces. Now, in the front page of the New York Times, you will see a hard news story that purports to be reporting the facts that is full of conjecture and unsupported opinion masquerading as news, and this is commonplace. And not only that, but news organizations, some of the most formally well-respected news organizations like CNN, the New York Times, and the Washington Post have actually cheered on this devolution of ethics and standards, saying that they needed to adjust the way they were covering things to account for this president that they say they viewed as uniquely dangerous. I argue, on the other hand, there's never a more important time for us to follow our standards and ethics, that's why we have them, than when we have specific opinions, good or bad, about a person that we're covering. But we've done quite the opposite here.
Yeah, you know, Sharyl, we start this show every time we air one. It's with a commentary. It's a monologue, and we splash commentary along the bottom, and we do that for a reason. It's an opinion. It's my opinion. I'm not claiming these are pieces of news nuggets for our viewers. It's my opinion for something to talk about over the dinner table. Here's what happens though when it's not the opinion, when it's the news divisions, when it's on the front page of the New York Times, not the editorial page, when it's on the front page, they're more and more now using unnamed sources. This seems dangerous to me. Now I'll go to you as the journalist. Is that a dangerous practice?
Well, the way it's been used, yes. We used to have very strict standards, for example, when I was at CBS News, for when we were allowed to or resorted to using sources who wanted to remain anonymous. And it was a very strict guideline, and I would go over these terms with our attorneys before I would ever do that in a news report, make sure that we were covered. But it's things like it has to be a last resort. It has to be that the information is not gettable in any other way. It has to be that you give the audience the best perception of who these people are without saying exactly who they are, but reporting on their potential conflicts of interest. So you understand these could be political enemies, for example, or these could be somebody with an axe to grind. That is all supposed to be disclosed. And then finally, as the New York Times and the Washington Post and CNN and others kept quoting anonymous sources who were routinely wrong over and over again, but kept turning to the same tactics and quoting nonetheless, that would have violated everything that we once would do as news organizations. We would shun the sources who proved to be wrong, off the record, on the record, anonymously or not. And instead, it seems like they're invited back on again and again as if nothing had ever happened.
All covered extensively, I assume, in your new book. By the way, everyone, go out and grab this book. Sharyl is one of the premier journalists in America. There's the book Slanted. Comes out Tuesday. And don't forget Full Measure every week. As they say in the biz, check your local listings. Thank you, Sharyl.
Thanks, Eric.